My coach used to always say, don't play careful, don't play careless, but play carefree. And I think that when you don't care about getting the deal, or you don't care about this shot so much, I think that that's part of the recipe to own your craft.
Welcome to Friends of Build magazine. I'm your host, Ted Bainbridge. I've been traveling the world and working in publications for 30 years. In 2016, we launched our first issue of Build magazine, a publication dedicated to high-end home construction, renovation, and the innovative experts that make this possible. This podcast was created to have some fun and explore those who have taken on the challenge of building luxury homes in demanding locations. From navigating logistics in construction to excavating the earth, we want to learn more about these people and how their projects became cover-worthy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So I'm here with Greg Forrest in Palm Beach with the Serhant Real Estate Group, high-end brokerage firm. Greg used to be a professional golfer, and now he is a real estate mogul. One of the things that I think is cool that the people listening are going to love about your story is that discipline that you had to be a professional golfer, to play day in, day out. And what we were talking about before, when we had technical issues, which I think is a really empowering story for people, is you got to be in love with the grind, whatever you're doing, right? And what you just said is it's going to take you 10 or 20 years to really get into a groove. You'll make money, but before you're really to where you want to be in real estate in Palm Beach. And I think most people want instant gratification. So kind of expound on that, how you got to fall in love with the process.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a big, I think, lesson for me daily. I think a lot of times I'm just, like I said, I'm fighting my own ego or just my own humility that I'm trying to operate my life out of. And I think that when you're going after something and you have a goal, like with golf, it was like every day I put in these swings and practice sessions. And I kind of thought, like, I put in this session today and I think that's going to help me tomorrow. And I think that, like, in real estate, it's really making the extra calls or getting in early. Like I said, I mean, I'm constantly, used to, I think I played golf, 18 to 20 years and probably missed 18 to 20 days because I always felt weird when I didn't swing for a day. So I never wanted to feel weird under pressure or feel off, when I was playing golf. And so fast forward now with my job, I'm just always showing up. Like, I'm in the office early. I've got a checklist and we're kind of knocking stuff out. And, I kind of fight my own ADD here and there, but you have to like repetitively do things over and over to, and it's small wins, right? It's like that extra practice session, like, okay, the extra call session or the extra, I met with this many people this week versus last week, just trying to move the needle every day, I think is more important than seeing all these people just make it big or make it, here, make it there. I mean, I came from really just great middle-class parents. Like, I didn't come from any money or any connections, or mom wasn't a mayor in town or anything. You hear all these stories about realtors and how they make it. It's just been super grassroots. Yeah, it's just, I was mentioning to you earlier about, playing with these guys on tour and how I played with some of the best guys that are playing out there and played against them. And like a guy like Billy Horschel, recently like mentioned me on a podcast, which was kind of funny because he and I grew up playing together and we were, we roomed together at a couple events and traveled. And, he was always just a guy that, he wasn't the best player as a junior, but he didn't stop. Like, he just kept going and going and going. And that's his mentality. And I think that, it's funny, like I'll mention these guys here and there, but it was funny that he mentioned me on a podcast because he's like, no one knows about him anymore except, he's in real estate and he's killing it. And so, it's just funny how you can take something that you learn from a skill and a craft for so long and then apply it to something different. I mean, I'm a big Will Ferrell fan. I think he's hilarious. He mentioned on a podcast like a month ago that his father, just always told him, like, hey, look, if this thing doesn't work out, just do something else. And he kind of like talked about how it freed him up to be funny because he just didn't care. because his dad instilled in him like, hey, if it doesn't work out, I'll just find something else. And so, I thought that was really neat because it's like that's probably when you operate your best. I know when I played my best golf, my coach used to always say, don't play careful, don't play careless, but play carefree. And I think that when you don't care about getting the deal, or you don't care about this shot so much, it just allows you to kind of operate, in this lower pressure mindset. I think that that's part of the recipe to own your craft.
So you've said a few things, and I said this to you a minute ago when we weren't recording, but there's always a couple of nuggets that you seem to share. And one of them is about the discipline to go out there and practice and own your craft. And it made me think of Colby because Colby, I listened to a podcast of his last week and it was, or an interview of his last week, and it was, he would get up at 4 a.m. and practice for 2 hours, go, shower, eat, go back to the gym at 9, practice for a few hours. And he goes, over time, he goes, I just worked harder than everybody else. You talk about Billy Horschel and how he wasn't the greatest player, but he just continued to practice and improve. Ben Hogan would hit one irons, and everybody goes, that famous one iron at Marion at the US Open that he knocked stiff. And they go, wow, what an incredible shot. He said, I've hit it 1,000 times on the range. Didn't even think about it. So
Yeah.
how does preparation allow you to stay calm in the moment when you're in a real estate deal? No different than coming down the last few holes in a golf tournament, keeping your
Yeah.
composure and enjoying the excitement and the nerves of it instead of, falling apart with the pressure.
Sure. I think having a great team around you is super impactful. And I think a lot of realtors and just in general, people, in certain industries where they're in sales, they struggle to hire people, right? Like I've never been afraid to hire people since I got into a high-end coaching program that I was, involved in for about 6 years of my career over the last 8 years, because it's been about a year and a half since I've been out of that. But I learned so much in that, it's just always making sure that you have good people around you. And then two, never have commission breath is what I've been told is just like so easy to think about. I think in my business, like, oh, how much money I'm going to make on this deal because we're paid deal by deal. So it's not like I'm paid salary, I'm paid when the deal closes. And so like, I've always just kind of set the tone in my business and thought like, okay, I'm just going to do this for the people first. So I kind of have this motto, I serve before I earn. And so when I serve someone and really help them really well, and I don't have my mind on the commission or have my mind on, how much I'm going to make in this deal. It's like I want the best for them, but I also want the best for the deal. So there's certain scenarios that happen where I have a client that I know they want the house badly, right? And so like, because that I know that, I might operate a little bit differently versus a client that's like, I don't need the house, Greg. I want it at this price and that's it. And so you have to have the nuance of understanding your client and understanding the situation to be able to negotiate. I study Chris Voss a lot. He talks about finding the black swan in a deal. And so like finding that black swan with my client and also with the other side is super important, I think, for any negotiation. Like so many times, I think things get missed or they just get overlooked because we're not aware of a client. Like I think finding their problem, solving it is probably better than just, hey, you want a 4-bedroom, three bath in this neighborhood, minimum. Like, okay, cool. Let me find it for you. No, like we try to get to know them and try to understand like where they're coming from and the context. And that's a more boutique strategy. And I think it's a little more bespoke and helps us be successful. So,
Well, also, the people that you're dealing with in Palm Beach, they don't need anything. They want a lot, but they don't
sure.
necessarily need it.
Yeah.
And so that's a different conversation as opposed to if you're dealing in some other part of the country where, man, those people, they do need a roof over their
Yeah.
head.
Right. Right.
These
Yeah.
people are playing in a different sandbox.
And so we tend to treat it more as if it's an asset versus like a need. And so if they want it, great. But it's also, becoming like a really important asset because they, use it not only for themselves, maybe they use it corporately, maybe they look at it as an investment long term because the island is only so big. And so when you have all these different areas converging on this one little island, it's like these are rare pieces of the state, and so
Okay, so you're Your clientele, Greg, has got to be incredibly competitive and they want to win. And that has got to be a blast to be in a situation where somebody, like I said, they don't need the home, but they want it. They want the thrill of victory. They want to win. How do you deal with clients like that?
Well, I think that question could probably be answered in like, we have to be creative in how we win. I'll give you a prime example. I had a client about 5 years ago buy a house in Jupiter, and it was during COVID. It was during like this crazy run up. And so we had, it was a waterfront property. It was almost $3 million. And we had, at the time that was something. Now that sounds like a steal here, but that property's probably doubled at least. But long story short, four of us, the agent told us that there was four competing offers. So I went to my client. I said, look, four competing offers. We have to, in order to win this, he wasn't willing to come really much over ask. Like I think it was 25 grand over ask, which at that time, like coming over ask was sort of like normal for a hot minute.
A $3 million property, that's not a whole lot.
It's not. And so I said, what can we offer that's not going to affect you monetarily, but it might really surprise the seller? And so what we did was I knew he had a place in the Bahamas. And so we threw in 2 weeks free for the seller to stay at his place in the Bahamas. And so I threw that in the offer. He was like, I'm totally cool with it. He's got a boat there. They can use my boat. I'll make him sign a waiver or whatever. And I get the call like the next morning, and the agent was super kind of fun and, vivacious guy. And he just was basically like, hey man, I got you guys want it. Because he lived in the area, and he was like, I just want a neighbor that has a place in the Bahamas. And so, it just worked. And we beat out like an MLB guy. I remember like we beat out some real competition that may or may not have come, above ask too. But the reality is, sometimes you got to get creative, and to be able to win, you have to potentially, throw in something that maybe you have that someone else doesn't have, and that you can, throw in the mix. So that was a fun scenario. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. Because those are the things that I gotta believe make your life so much more fun. Because I mean the day in process of the daily grind of going through whatever, it's always fun to get a curveball and have some
Yeah.
fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you've got some you mentioned Billy Horschel. I'm a big golf nerd, so I love his personality. What have you learned from people like that? Or you mentioned your managing partner and the success that he's had with this show, or some of the famous people that you deal with, because at the end of the day, they're still just people. What have
Correct.
you learned from them?
It's been great just kind of being around these types of people, and that, yes, they are just people, but at the end of the day, they're doing a lot of things really well that you kind of feel like they're not people sometimes because they're just so successful in what they're doing. And I think a lot of it, success, I think can be an infection, or it can be, just a regular prescription. Right. And so I think that if we're prescribed it, we kind of believe it, right? Like we believe it's part of us. It's in our DNA. It's kind of what we do. And I think it's taken me a little while. I mean, I was knocking at the door in my golf career, but I just didn't make it. But I was knocking, and I was there. I was in a, top 20 junior in the country and a top 50, Division I player. But I just kind of fizzed out. I just couldn't stay healthy. But I mainly, I was knocking at the door, right? I had a collegiate victory, but I always thought I could just do better. And so when you're infected by it, I think it can actually slow you down, meaning when you achieve it, you bask in it, and you're like, man, this is the life. I kid you not, I've had some bigger closings, and hopefully, we get some bigger ones. Sometimes people will be like, oh, you can just relax now. So that's like the Nick Saban, he would tell his team, like, don't read the positive
Plus
headlines,
Clippers. Yeah.
because he called that rat poison. He's like, that's going to kill you inside. That's going to make you complacent, right? So I always, sometimes I fight complacency. We all do as humans, but I think knowing that like the worst thing that somebody can say is no. And then secondly, having this prescription daily that you tell yourself, like, I am going to do this. I am going to do that. I'm not saying like manifesting and all that, but it's just more like if you believe in what you have to believe in what you do to be successful in sales. Like you talked about how we kind of are successful, or how we do it day in and day out. And little things like when I go and meet a client, like I've built a system, right? And so like I have a tons of checklists and a great assistant, and we're working as a team. And I think that when I can tell the client like, hey, you're gonna get this from me, you're gonna get that from me. And when I can deliver that, because I know that my team is there to help deliver those things, I feel empowered. So I always like to say, like, I'm the left side of the boat and they're the right. And so if we're not rowing at the same time, I'm just going to go in circles. And
Yep.
so, I think a lot of learning how to delegate, learning how to trust other people that are great around you, and really telling that client, like, hey, we're going to get an email out every Friday, or Saturday on your property. No questions asked. Like, we're going to geofence your property around this hotel because we think that like the people coming here might look at their phone and see your property. Well, I got to make sure that that happens. So anything that we say, I'm always trying to make sure that like, and I'm not perfect, and I've made some mistakes, and I've overpromised and underdelivered, but it's really just about like sticking to what you say. So like having an assistant's great, because I could go meet 3 people at a charity event or a networking event. And how many times do we say, yeah, I'd love to reach out, love to connect with you. I'll reach out, and we'll set up a lunch or whatever, and then nothing happens, right? Well, I'll take a picture of the cards I met at that event, send it to my assistant, make sure that tomorrow you get out an invitation to these 3 people for lunch. That's where like my brain might not go to that the next day, but like I've already got it to the person in my business that knows that that's their job. And so that's a good little example.
So let's go back just a second because you mentioned another really great thing, and that is complacency. It's human nature. Right? We all have, well, hopefully, we all have goals. The people that are going to listen to this, they all have goals. They tear things out of magazines, or they'll take screenshots or whatever, and they'll put it on their fridge or their bathroom wall or whatever, of a car they want or a house they want, something of that degree. And then isn't it fascinating? I remember listening to Scotty Scheffler last year at I think it was the US Open or the PGA, and he was talking about all these victories he gets. Yeah. He goes, I won the US Open, and 15 minutes later, my wife's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And he goes, I was over the excitement of winning the tournament, and now I was thinking of the next thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just a mindset that, I mean, Scotty is a man of faith, like myself. And I think that he just has a total mindset that like, this is not everything in my life. It's not even close. That's easier said than done. I mean, I do think that like Scotty enjoys being good
Of course. Yeah.
and winning, but like, I think that like when you really tap into just that like everything's going to work out, it kind of frees you up to operate at a high level. And so I'm not quite there all the time. I do still struggle sometimes with climbing this ladder that I'm, kind of making for myself. But at the end of the day, the small wins daily, like Scotty, for example, like being a golfer, and I know this, when I took my round one shot at a time, I usually scored better. We do like in my business, I've done like a time study where every minute, every 5 minutes, like I'm tracking what I'm doing. And so when I'm distracted at work, I'm not going to operate well, but when I'm focused, I will. And I think too many of us maybe fall into a trap of this podcast mentality that's kind of out there where no rest for the weary. I'm going to just mail it in every day. And that's a recipe to burn out. I mean, there's like a proverb, never wear yourself out just to get rich. I mean, I think if you break your day into 3 quadrants of 8 hours, like 8 great hours of sleep today, that means I'm going to have 8 hyper-focused hours at work, and then 8 hours of just vacation, like 8 hours of me time or exercise time, family time, whatever. But I had a mentor tell me that once, and I was like, man, if I could just have 8, I mean, some people, if they can just have 3 or 4 hours focused a day at work,
Well, that'd be good.
they would be insane. And so when you look to your day, is that, okay, I'm going to take these 8 hours so serious that like the next 8, I'm going to have a vacation. And like, if we can do that daily, I think it will help a generation become more balanced and not burned out and hooked on, I don't take any medicines that are controversial or anything like that just to keep me focused. Like, I've never been that guy. What I'm trying to get at is that if we're, the more focused we are doing the thing that we're doing, usually it adds up to success. Like success it's a math problem, right? It's a numbers game.
Okay, so how do you And I want you to equate this to business. But as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of Jordan. He just wanted the ball and he always came through in the clutch. I think of Tiger. He wanted the pressure and he always came through in the clutch. Jordan Spieth had a 2-year run in the mid, 2015 where it was annoying how often he made the putt that needed to go in, right? How do
100%.
you get into that space and how do you get into it in business?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it all comes down to limiting distractions. And so, I've got an assistant and I'm like telling her like I must do this today, right? She is my protection, as we would say. If I don't have, it's funny if you do if you're working and you're a self-starter and you can really tap into this, okay, I'm going to just go for it today and not have anyone over me because I think you tend to do better when you're doing it for someone else than yourself. It's just easier to talk about other people than yourself, right? It's easier to work for your family than it is for yourself. And so I'm a single guy, I just have a dog. So sometimes it's hard to just work for my dog. And so I really tap into like, okay, if my assistant is strong-willed and she can boss me around, like I always say, like she's the boss, but I'm in charge, right? So I'm trying to create an environment around me that like keeps my guardrails up. And so I'm not veering off too much. But to answer the question plainly, it's really just limiting distractions and then really, taking the time to like appreciate your job. Like so many times in real estate, we get a lead and we forget to thank the lead or thank the person who referred the lead. And so for me, we have a tracker that, we're always trying to thank the person, right, who gave us their referral or gave us the lead. Like, thank you so much. I'm honored that you would think of me. And so if your heart's behind it a little more, you tend to do better because guess what? If Ted meets a guy and he's looking to buy in Palm Beach and he refer and you send him my way. Oh my gosh, Ted, you send me John. John, Ted. Oh, how do you know him? Oh yeah, he had me on a podcast. He had me on a podcast too. No, no. Oh yeah, he's great. I don't want to let John down, but I also don't want to let you down. And so
Yeah.
now I've created the pressure of not letting someone down through a referral. And so I'm going to do that much better of a job and tell them like, hey, we're going to do extra good for you because you came from Ted. And so I think just like there's really loving the process and being obsessed with the steps and also like just honoring and serving people. I tend to get distracted when I don't think that way, but when I'm focused on helping the person, then I start to really excel at my job.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to talk
Let's do it.
specifically about the insanity of Palm Beach real estate. I have been told by more than one people that Zoran Minotti is the realtor of the year for Florida because of what's going on in New York City, and so many people are leaving the Northeast and moving to Florida, specifically Palm Beach. What is going on?
Yeah, so, I think we had a wave of that and I think now it's normalized, but we have a guy like Stephen Ross who's transforming our city. We're working on the traffic flow. That's probably the biggest thing. But, I think there's just so much ease to living in Florida, especially Palm Beach. We don't have the state income tax. Our lives you can enjoy your life. Like you're not really invaded. Your privacy's not invaded. The things that you do every day, you don't have to think about vaccine mandates or anything like that. Like we're just kind of big on like, hey, this is a free state and we just want you to enjoy it. And I think that like a lot of people are attracted to that. I know I am. I grew up in Martin County. I mean, my high school, we took a field trip to the sheriff's shooting range. Like it was crazy, that would never happen now. But, we had such a good, safe like school. And it was just like, I've come from these values. I think that like ultimately, the people that are moving here are just interested in like building their family, right? Living in a place that has beautiful scenery and palm trees and crystal clear, like Bahamas water. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something I take for granted for sure, because I could walk right down the street here and see the Bahamas, basically. I mean, we're only 70 miles from the West End. And so, I've been over there a few times. It's great. But we live in such an ease of life area. And I think that if people are, COVID happens, everyone thinks the world's coming to an end. Well, guess what? They wanted to kind of buy their place before the sun finally set for the last time is kind of what they were thinking. Like that obviously didn't happen, but we saw this flurry. And I think with New York, it's not only just New York. I mean, I'm seeing like a steady flow from New York, right? It's kind of, I think, week by week, month by month, it's like a few more people are interested. But California too. I mean, I just had a California client, and we're getting several California clients that are definitely moving to Florida. It's just,
It's not surprising. I hear that a lot, but it still is wild that people would go from the West Coast to the East Coast. But given how the 2 states are run, it's not surprising at all.
sure. Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love the state. I have family out there. I've been out there several times, and I think it's such a beautiful
Yep.
state. And I just think the reasons that people move from there to here, usually they're probably more politically motivated, but also like, it's just a expensive state. Like we're thankfully much cheaper than there as far as living. But Palm Beach is a bit of an anomaly because this is a billionaire's playground. I mean, this is where the wealth hang out, and they don't really flaunt it as much. It's very understated. Like I think people, it gets a bad rap. People kind of talk it up as this hoity-toity, but I can show up in just a regular looking shirt like this and some flip-flops and some linen shorts and on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I fit right in. It's pretty laid back at the same time.
It's got quite a mix of everything. I will tell you, the island is become super expensive since COVID. It was always very well to do, but man,
It's
COVID, all of a sudden, like we've got a direct mail list and we've never seen anything like the one for Palm Beach County, where you've got almost 300 homes of 50 million or more. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's everything doubled and then some. I mean, you have properties that have quadrupled. It's just the idea that we sort of weren't, there's just so many. I mean, it's just like everybody wishes they just bought a bunch of these little $1 million homes in Palm Beach back in 2000 because they're all 12, $15 million.
It's
I
just
had a
crazy.
Yeah, it's just such an insulated, insular place where there's too much to offer here, along with the architecture and the way people live and the lifestyle and the beach clubs and the country clubs. Like it's just unmatched. It's the safest place to live in the world too. Like it's like we're in Monaco here. Like there's no crime on Palm Beach, and there's no gates really. It's just property gates, but like it's so safe. I mean, we joke like that people that live here, they just have their alarm for insurance purposes only, but they never set it.
Is it that safe because Trump lives there, or was it always that safe?
It's always been very safe. I mean, people don't realize, like, you drive onto the island, the police department's taking pictures of your license plate. Like every license plate on the island gets a picture taken when you drive on it. And so they have a very advanced hidden system that it's not like I don't see police lights maybe but once a week, if that, maybe once a month. It's like it's not, and usually they're just because they're directing traffic right now. Like we have a whole traffic crew of police now at rush hour. I mean, like they're out there, telling people to turn left. And when there's a 1-2 lane right turn across the street and both cars are turning at the same time. But yeah, that's pretty much what happens on Palm Beach. It's really rare.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, a couple of days ago, I go, the security is pretty impressive. And I don't know the name of the street, but we ended up at the south end of Mar-a-Lago, and there's obviously the police, CIA, whoever it, FBI, whoever it is, and there's got to be 100 cops there. They're so efficient, so polite. We don't care. Take pictures of our stuff. Know who we are. I want you to. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. It's interesting. I think only the bad people care about their privacy, and the people like us, we understand we want to be safe too.
100%.
And they just let us, "Hey, where are you going?" "Down there." "Okay, great, no problem. Just can't turn left." We get it. We get it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it makes it a very, I would think, very alluring place. What do you think of the golf communities that are going up in Martin County? Because that affects Palm Beach as well. And they're
S
magnificent. Jordan's got his place. Panther National, I don't know if that's in Martin County. I still think that's Palm Beach, but that's a pretty impressive facility as well.
Yeah, so there's several that have been going up, the last couple of years, and I think, we've got Jordan's Grove 23 that they just redid the course a little bit, just made it even better. You've got Apogee, Stephen Ross's place that is a playground. They got 3 courses there, and then Discovery Lands, Atlantic Fields
Yep.
is a game changer. I mean, it's 6-8 million just to get a lot there. And I joke like I grew up here, and so driving, in Hope Sound, there's the Medalist Golf Club, which is kind of a famous place because of Greg Norman started it, and he's no longer part of it. But Tiger Woods obviously is a member there, and a bunch of the other pros. But I work next door at this club called MacArthur, and it was just such a high end place that people drive. So people live in Palm Beach and they drive up there. It's 45 minutes to an hour,
It's
so it's
such a
kind of like,
cool logo too.
yeah, oh yeah,
The little
yeah.
milk
So
jug?
yeah, the milk jug, yeah. We used to play the jugginal every year. It was, so when I was moving up in my junior golf career, I got a job out there and I was caddying and working outside. And so they took the best caddies and outside guys versus Seminoles, best caddies and outside guys. So we played the jugginal. They called it. It was MacArthur versus Seminole. But yeah, the old dairy farm out there, they kind of rode on that and kind of came up with the milk jug, and then to the point where I think all the tee markers out there now are just milk jugs. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you're seeing, I'm over at Bear Lakes right here, just west of town, and it's 12 minutes from downtown. And the initiation fee there is skyrocketed just because of the location. Some people just don't want to drive, 45 minutes to an hour. Those people are used to it because that's what they're doing in New York. They live in the city and they're driving, over to the creek, or they're driving over to, Piping Rock or whatever, Shinnecock. There's all kinds of travel that, people are used to. Here, it's just more open road. And, I always say, like in New York City, I'm always looking forward to getting back home because I just love hopping in my truck and just driving. And so,
You're pretty fortunate with where you live. What do you see happening on the horizon in the next 5 years for real estate in Palm Beach and for your career?
yeah, so, I think for real estate here, we're now, not only do we have, I think the schools is the next thing. So like they're planning on a couple new schools and hospital upgrades that I think are really, hopefully they're going to get ahead of all this action, because Palm Beach is not it's already developed, right? And so you're either renovating properties or you're just making them better. There's really no new, apart from a few things going up, like the Amman, which is going to be going up in Palm Beach, south of Sloan's Curve, we call it. All the development's happening in West Palm. And so I think, we've kind of nicknamed it Palm Beach West, because it's just, you can develop 25 stories there. So we're going to see like probably 6 to 7, maybe 8 new condo projects come out of the ground. So along with that, you're getting high-end restaurants, you're getting, schools, and, you're getting the infrastructure on the retail end of things. Like, we just got an Eataly, which is a big deal, and it's been insane. Like, there's been so many people there at all times. The famous place, in New York City, and in the Flatiron Building, they just opened here. Our Restoration Hardware store in West Palm is like the #1 Restoration Hardware store in the country.
Yeah, it's pretty magnificent.
Yeah, and so, I think the future is bright. I think just, I think they're trying to tackle the affordable housing end of things, because there's a lot of new jobs that are getting created here. And so, like, the Breakers Hotel, for example, is building their own lodging, just to lodge. And I think you're going to start to see bigger companies, have either a set amount of places in a building, or it's just going to be part of the thing. And so I think our area, because it's like a little big city, will hopefully benefit from, all these new companies coming in. That I still think we're going to be small enough to feel boutique versus like a Miami. I mean, it's like Miami is like, there's 100 projects coming out of the ground. Like, we're
Yeah,
way
yeah.
different than that. But to be able to have that infrastructure, built next to an island like Palm Beach is very special, because I think people can just enjoy Palm Beach. The Palm Beachers that live here that call me, they're not so happy that have been here a long time. But, I think hopefully with the traffic flow and all this new excitement, that they can kind of keep the traffic to an okay, manageable situation, which I think it is currently still at.
So the Amman Group, I don't know if you know much about them, but what they build is just staggeringly spectacular.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 No, they're the cream of the crop, and they're doing 2 towers in Palm Beach, something like 35 units, I think. So very, very boutique. Yeah. It's going to be nice.
And what are they selling that a square foot for?
So they haven't
Like a four
announced
grand?
officially. They haven't announced officially, but I'm going to assume it's probably going to start at probably like a $10 million number feels accurate there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing one out in Deer Valley, Park City, 5,700 a foot.
Wow. That's a lot
That's a lot.
for Deer Valley. It's a lot. That's a lot. I better get, yeah. That's crazy. I better get my own ski lift for that. Yeah.
Well, they do have their own ski lift. It's Four Seasons is going in there at 4,000 a foot, and then Amon's going in at 5,700, and that is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
However, I just got back from Thailand and Vietnam and Korea, and I will tell you that our retail really could step it up a lot because there's some unbelievable retail that's available in other places of the world that you wouldn't even think of.
100%. Yeah. I've done a little traveling too, and I've noticed that. So they're heavy retail, but they're banking on people like us to buy it. So
Yeah. All right. Well, Greg, I greatly appreciate you. Where can people find you?
yes, I'm mainly kind of on Instagram, Greg Forrest _RE for real estate. I kind of pop on there, and then my website's gregforrestgroup.com. Pretty simple. We used to be, we've been in a couple different firms, Engel and Volkers, and we were Sotheby's for 6 years, and now we've joined up with Serhant. So that's where they can find me. My website and my Instagram. We're trying to do I've got a cool little thing that's going to come out here in a little bit. Kind of a video series that I think is going to be fun. So yeah, they can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. You can find everything discussed in this episode and more in our show notes below. I'm Ted Bainbridge, and you've been listening to Friends of Build Magazine podcast.